views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to the Social Justice Forums. I am Daren, Jaime, and of course, we thank you for joining us. If anybody asks the question, what is the Social Justice Forums about? It's a show that talks about a lot of the inequities that many people face. We talk about civic engagement. We talk about community discussion, and we bring you a variety of different people with a variety of different voices that make a difference. I want you to stay tuned as the Social Justice Forums starts right now. And welcome back. More than a year into the pandemic and with the fall 2021 semester approaching, colleges have experienced managing coronavirus concerns with greater clarity on how to balance student expectations and COVID-19 restrictions. Our next guest was recently appointed as the officer in charge at SUNY Potsdam as student advocate and senior advisor. He provides a system-wide leadership in furthering SUNY's academic priorities and campus efforts to improve access, retention, and success for all SUNY students. Joining us now is the officer in charge at SUNY Potsdam, Dr. John Graham, and I have to say with personal privilege, he is a friend and a brother. Dr. Graham, good to have you.
Hey, Daren, thank you so much. I'm so humbled to even be talking to you. You and I go back, oh God, many years. We go back from the beginning. So I'm just so fortunate to see you excelling so exceptionally well in your career, and I'm delighted to be with you today.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you too, brother. And I mean, it's a wonderful journey. We can talk about that a little bit later on, but here you are as the officer in charge, which for some people who may not know, that's almost like the president of SUNY Potsdam. But talk to us about your responsibilities at SUNY Potsdam.
So Daren, thank you so much. So what happened is that probably back in June, the president who was here, the former president who was here, notified the chancellor that she was going to be moving on and accepting another opportunity. So the chancellor then reached out to me with the board approval to see if I might be interested in taking over this role as officer in charge. And to your point, the responsibilities of the officer in charge is to execute the full duties of the college president. So essentially, I'm in the president's office. I'm making all the executive decisions, of course, collaboratively, but that's the strength of the title. So the title seems to be a little bit off-putting in the sense that some people would sort of align it with military, but officer in charge essentially means I have the full authority by the Board of Trustees to make the executive decisions and take the appropriate executive actions as appropriate and needed for the campus.
So you come in at a very unique time because here we are in 2021 navigating this pandemic. Students are getting back into in-person learning after having to deal with the virtual environment. Give us a sense of what's going on at SUNY Potsdam now, given the fact that you guys are back to in-person learning.
Thank you. So here's the thing, and I'm so happy you asked me that question. So what happened, obviously, during the pandemic, we learned a whole lot in March 2019. And of course, many of our students, if not all, basically all of our students went into this sort of virtual modality. And our faculty really did a great job of also making that transition. But I got to admit, it was painful on all sides. The faculty members would prefer the in-person instruction delivery, and the students would prefer the in-person experience for learning. So we had to deal with that dichotomy. But thankfully, we all sort of got through that process. And now most of our students, believe it or not, as much as they use iPads and iPhones and all these fancy gadgets that they like and we all love, many of our students, especially in the SUNY system, really are high-touch students, and they really would like to engage with their faculty members in person. But what we're trying to do now is to shore up the in-person instruction, but also leave a lot of space and room for hybrid instruction. And some students actually would like to remain in a remote instructional modality. So we're trying to do all those three things at one time. But definitely our footprint right now at SUNY Potsdam and many of our SUNY campuses is really to have our students back on campus, back in person, because again, our students, this is what they expect from us.
Yeah. What can you tell us about, you've worked for the SUNY schools for a long time, State University of New York, for those people who may not be so familiar. And there is this special aura, if you will, about SUNY students, the demographics of where they come from. For many of them in New York State, the opportunity to stay home in New York State and be able to actually get their college education there. And it's a win-win situation on a part of a lot of our students. Talk to us a little bit about the SUNY student and what you gained in your knowledge of them.
Well, that's really good. So here's the thing. Statistically, 97% of our students are actually from New York State. That's a very high number, right? So we have a tremendous footprint. And Daren, a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a SUNY campus every 30 miles in the state of New York.
Wow.
And also SUNY owns, and I found this data point to be quite shocking, at least 45% of the state buildings. 45%, that's a huge footprint. So we go from all the way from Western New York, all the way down to downstate New York, which is in Long Island. So we have a SUNY campus every 30 miles. A lot of people may not know this data point as well, is that we comprise 64 college campuses. And out of the 64, 30 are community colleges and 34 are four-year campuses. And then among them, we have technology colleges, we have comprehensive colleges, and SUNY Potsdam is a comprehensive college. And then of course we have research institutions as well, which are known as university centers. So we have a dynamic mix. Now, what I will tell you to the second part of your question, which is mission critical, is that many of our students really don't necessarily want to be in New York City. I'm a Harlem guy, and I wanted to be out of New York City for my college education. I wanted to have some sort of open air, some trees, some squirrels. I was looking for something different. So many of our students that I talk to on our campus, I'm in the northern country of New York. We're about 25 miles from the Canadian border. We have a lot of students, believe it or not, from the Bronx. Lots of students. I met a young lady the other day from Cardinal Spellman, and she's on the women's basketball team here. So we got students from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island, and we have some really dynamic programs here, like the Crane School of Music. So a lot of our students city, without necessarily being out of the state. So the state is big enough. So our students come here, they get a great experience, and many of them stay, or they may retreat back to the city or the borough where they come from.
So here you are as the president of SUNY Potsdam, officer in charge, if you will, and you have responsibilities and obviously also a vision, and you have to really navigate the helm. So talk to us a little bit about your vision for SUNY Potsdam. What are you trying to see occur this year in the area of your students as well as for your teachers?
So thank you. So here's the thing. I just gave a sort of a welcoming address to the campus community on September 8th. And if you don't mind, I'll share that with you and Latricia. But here's the thing. I really came in with a great deal of respect for what's happening here nationally. A lot of people don't realize that we have about 19 plus million students in college. We have about 5,300 colleges and universities in this country, about 2,000 community colleges. But the market share for our campus is about 3,000 students. So number one, we want to increase our market share in the space of getting more students. So to do that, we created a 4-point enrollment strategy. So the first point of our enrollment strategy is the North Country. Try to shore up our enrollment, particularly with the students that are in our geographical location. That's number one. Number two, we want to sort of expand our footprint in New York City, those 5 boroughs, of course. And we want to try to get as many students as we can to be attracted to our campus, because the campus really is a postcard. That's the second part of our strategy. The third part of our enrollment strategy is really to attract international students to join our campus. And Daren, I might want to underscore this. When we talk about international students, we're also including students who are already here. That might be Dreamers, that might be DACA. We might, that's a part of our dynamic mix for international students. And then the fourth part of our strategy, Daren, is to really what we call bring back the Bears. Potsdam's logo is the Bears, right? The Potsdam Bears. So we want to bring back students who already have, 90 credits, 115 credits, 75 credits that did not complete. So we want to do a degree completion platform that will give us a sense of building our enrollment. So that's the first part of the vision. The second thing we want to do is really restore confidence in the campus, because again, as I mentioned, we have comprehensive colleges. We have 13 comprehensive colleges. Our campus has the lowest enrollment among the 13. We were always relatively small, but again, we want to get back to our market share. As I said, we have about 3,000 students. we would be more comfortable in a space of about 4,500 students. So we got a lot of work to do over the next 3 to 5 years. So building enrollment is a key. Restoring confidence in the campus that we're going to be a viable enterprise is also important. And then the third thing, Daren, which I have make no bones about saying, is that we need to set the campus up for permanent leadership. And that's important. Now, that doesn't disinclude me, but that's the direction I want to go. Increase enrollment, restore confidence. And the third thing is set the campus up on good financial footing to welcome a permanent leader.
Yeah. And so when we talk about SUNY schools, obviously you said 97% of those SUNY students are actually coming from right here in New York State. What is the biggest draw, if you will, for having that high percentage? Because we do know a lot of people can say, listen, you know what, I'll go somewhere else. Like you wanted to, you wanted to scrolls, you ended up going to University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. But what was the driving force, do you think, to really make students say, I want to stay in state?
Daren, here's the thing. You know, and I know, New York City writ large has about 9 million people, right? And Brooklyn has what, 2.4, Long Island has about 3 million. And then any given day, it's about 11 million people working in New York City. A lot of the students that I talk to, especially here, especially from Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, Staten Island, Long Island, they tell me pretty much the same thing. I want to be out of the city. I want to sort of explore my horizons. The city is dense. Many of them even say that their households are dense, and they really just kind of want to get out and sort of spread their wings, and they kind of like want to learn in a more diverse setting. And believe it or not, you would think that there's a lot of diversity in New York City, but some students, depending on who they are and where they're from, they're actually looking for some exploratory type of diversity, different faculty, different peers. They come for athletics, they come for our Crane School of Music, they come for our academic offerings, and believe it or not, the students I talk to, they absolutely love not being in New York City, but they love to retreat back to New York City. So this is really about getting a part of the market share of students that says, you know what, I love the state of New York, don't want to leave the state, but I want to have a diverse experience. And so they choose SUNY Potsdam as well as some of our other campuses.
I want to take a moment and share with our viewers that not only are you the officer in charge of SUNY Potsdam, you've had a long history in the career of education, but you've also had a long career as an athlete. Our brotherhood has actually shared a lot, basically, on the basketball court, as well as off the court as well. But I want to talk for a minute because you bring a unique perspective. I mentioned that you're a Division I athlete, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, did very well there, opportunity to do overseas, all of those great things. But you bring a unique perspective to the seat that you sit in right now because you also have a concept about athletics. And I want to talk about athletics and academics in this moment because that's also a draw for students, because sometimes you can't make it to play at that big school the way that you do, but you do have the opportunity to come to a school where you can get good playing time and then also be in a good college atmosphere.
That is a wonderful and well-positioned question and comment, because Daren, when you come to visit, you've got to take a look at our Maxey Hall. It is unbelievable. I have never been to a Division III campus that has an ice hockey arena, huge volleyball court, indoor track, Olympic-sized pool. The basketball court is phenomenal. The sports programs here are tremendous. We have soccer and we have women's ice hockey. So, I'm excited about that. But I want to just kind of go back a little bit about this whole thing about student athletes. One of the things, Daren, that students will always want to be associated with is a winning institution. Many years ago, a study was done at Duke University, and they were interviewing students randomly. It was a random survey. And they asked students, why did you choose Duke University? And these are non-student athletes. You know what the response was? I wanted to be associated with a winning institution. So one of the things I have said here at Potsdam since I've been here is that we want our student athletes to, one, win in the classroom. That's first, right? We want them to win in the community, and then we want them to win on the field, on the ice, on the track, in the gym, wherever they're competing. And we want our students to take the same thing, Daren, that you and I have always known: endurance, concentration, stamina. All these things are so important. And those are transferable skills. So everything that I learned at A. Philip Randolph High School in terms of going to practice, lifting weights, staying with the team, being a unified group, those are exactly the same skills that I'm using right now, many, many decades later in my career. So I'm a big fan of student athletes. I'm a big fan of students who are pure academics, but I certainly know that there's something magical, Daren, about higher education leadership. And I think higher education leadership, Daren, is really like a baseball team and not necessarily a basketball team. You know this, in a basketball team, one athlete can have a great day and say, hey guys, you four don't even worry about it. I'll take the game over. Well, in baseball, you can't do that. The pitcher has to trust the outfield. And so if I'm pitching here at Potsdam as the officer in charge or as the leader, I got to trust my outfield. So that's what I think, that's what I'm bringing to bear at this institution, is letting folks know that we are indeed a team. And as you know, Daren, and we all know, teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. I want to share with people that, our brotherhood goes a long way. I mean, I can tell a story like we used to play basketball. And when we played basketball, we would be finished playing basketball. But you would be the dude who says, yo, I got to go over here to City College, study. You were writing dissertations, you were getting your stuff in, and you said, listen, I'm going to get this master's, I'm going to get this doctorate. I'm going to do what I need to do in order to excel in the field of education. I know a lot of us, we were still basketball heavy, but you had the balance between both basketball and academics. And when I look at you now, I see a person that's now the officer in charge, for those people that, or the equivalent of the president at SUNY Potsdam University, but more importantly, an African-American brother who I get to see in the presidency. How do we get to the place where we can close that gap, where we can see more Dr. John Leon Graham's, where we can see more in the presidency, because that's not something that we always see.
Well, Daren, listen, I will tell you. So if we go all the way back, Daren, when you and I grew up, when we played basketball, one of the things that you and I did and all our friends did, and we didn't even know it was going to pay dividends down the line, is that when we played in 135th and Lenox Avenue, right? We played there, and then all of a sudden somebody said, hey, there's a game at 145th and Lenox. We played there. So we always said yes. When we were growing up playing basketball, it was Marble Hill, it was everywhere. We played everywhere. King Towers, we played in just about every single tournament. So one of the things I always did when I was young is I said yes to everything, and then I tried to figure out, I said yes, so how am I gonna make yes work? So one of the things I did, Daren, is as I got older, I started sort of positioning myself to say, you know what? Keep putting yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable. When you and I grew up, our generation, the motto was, if the shoe fits, wear it. Now it's, if the shoe fits, you're not allowing room for growth. So I'm always looking to push myself. But I got to tell you something, Daren, and I'm going to be very honest with you, as I always have been. I have put out 125 applications over my career, 125, and 118 times somebody said no to me. And then on 7 occasions, I was able to get some interest. And then on 1 occasion, I got this opportunity. So being able to deal with no, not now, and maybe, I have dealt with that. I am still a very much young man in spirit. And I look at this screen and I see my image with the gray beard. And I say to myself, wow, man, you come a long way. So Daren, I would say to your question is that I was able to deal with no a lot, not now, a lot, and maybe a lot. And so I think that the new generation is needed of problem solvers to get into this space of higher education. But one of the things, Daren, I'm not going to do is that I'm not going to take the manual with me. I'm building around me, and I'm sharing with young brothers and sisters to say, this is how you begin to build your portfolio. And even when I write letters of recommendations for individuals, they read the letter and go, oh my God, this is not me. And I say, yeah, it's not you now, but this is the person that I see in the years to come.
Yeah. And so for young people, obviously, that's your passion, to really see them go across the finish line. You understand also the burdens and challenges. I mean, we grew up in Harlem. We knew exactly what it was to be, growing up Harlem, and yet and still being able to achieve and get to a level where we are today. What advice do you give for young people who are really trying to find that academic balance and trying to get across the finish line amidst all of the life struggles? Because let's be honest, some of the people that we see in our SUNY schools, their income may not be as high. They're coming from backgrounds that have challenges and struggles, but yet and still in their heart of hearts, they want to be able to excel educationally.
So here's the thing. Daren, no matter where I've been to multiple countries around the world. I've lived outside of the United States in 3 different countries. One of the things that I have always done, I have never changed my psychological zip code. My zip code is 10027. I'm straight up from Harlem, 2 blocks from the Apollo Theater. And those street smarts that I've learned navigating through the neighborhoods, those are the same things that I use to bear in my profession. I did spend a lot of time in the library. I became sort of a library guy and spent 8 hours a day in the library, but I use that endurance and stamina from athletics. So what I would say, Daren, it's a mix of taking the fervor from the Bronx, from Brooklyn and Queens, and your survival skills of navigating that neighborhood, and then developing stamina and endurance and thinking about what it is that you want to do next. But Daren, I want to just share this very, very briefly. So the world's population is 7.4 billion people, maybe 7.5 billion. If we were to take a photograph of the entire world's population, what would most of us spend our time doing? We would be looking for ourselves in the picture. So that is exactly what it is that I was doing my entire life, is trying to find myself in the world's picture. And as the campus leader here at Potsdam, I'm giving every student a virtual mirror that when you come here, you find yourself in the world's picture.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to get you the opportunity to really just share your heart. I know there are a lot of people out there watching, and their parents and their students who are watching, and those who really are thinking about this thing called education. What would you say to parents, students, and educators on behalf of where you sit right now at SUNY Potsdam?
So I would say this: if you want your son or daughter to go far, then they really have to physically go far. When I left A. Philip Randolph High School and graduated, I had a full scholarship to Eastern New Mexico University. I chose an institution that was so far away from New York City that I could focus. And then I was very fortunate my sophomore, junior, and senior year to have a full basketball scholarship to Maryland Eastern Shore. So to me, let not distance be the reason why you limit yourself. If you really want to go far in this world, you literally sometimes and figuratively have to go far, because success is not always at your door. It's not at your neighbor's house. It's not 10 blocks away from where you live. Success might be very, very far away from where you grew up. Right now, Daren, I'm about 7 hours out of New York City, and I'm extremely comfortable here because I've sort of resided myself that I'm a Harlem guy. Drop me off anywhere. Mom, dad, caregivers, grandparents, loved ones, relatives, faculty, staff, students, whoever you are out there, if you want to go far, then go far.
Far as 25 miles from the Canadian border, Dr. John Graham, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. My brother, it's been great to have you, man, and you got to come back and share with us again.
Yes, sir. I love you, man, and thank you so much for the opportunity. So appreciate you.
All right, Dr. John Graham, our guest here on the Social Justice Forums. Stay with us. We got more show coming up. We're coming up in a few. Welcome back. For over 37 years, the Legal Outreach is a not-for-profit college prep and legal education program for middle and high school students from underserved communities right here in New York City. The program's goal is to motivate them to pursue professional careers, prepare them for admission to selective colleges, and instill in them the values needed, as well as the disciplines that will lead to their ultimate success. Sharing now more about their program is the Senior VP and Managing Director of Programs at Legal Outreach, Tamika Edwards. And Tamika, glad to have you here with us on the Social Justice Forums.
Thank you, Daren. Good to be here and happy to share today.
Yeah, and so, a part of what we do here is try to promote what we talk about civic engagement. And I know really one of the core components of your program is really helping young people to be able to develop in that area. So for someone who doesn't know a little bit more about legal outreach, bring us home.
Yeah, so Legal Outreach is a college preparatory organization. We are 37 years old. 38 years old now, and it was founded in 1983 by our executive director, James O'Neill, who at the time was just disturbed by the lack of representation of African American and Latinx attorneys within the legal profession. And he thought that the best way to address this was by using the law to effectuate change in the lives of young people in underserved communities. We started off in the middle schools, really just training teachers to teach the law, and students really loved the program. We had a focus on skill building student skills at the high school level and matriculate to top colleges and ultimately be professionals, after college and be successful professionals. One of the goals of our program is to just level the educational playing field for minority, low income, and first generation students. And we do that through 13 different programs that we run after school, on Saturdays, and every summer of a student's high school career at Legal Outreach, and primarily through what we call our College Bound program. So we have several programs. We have a Saturday Writing Academy. We have an SAT prep program. We have a life skills program, a debate program, an academic advisory program, college access program. All of these programs work together to help students build those academic skills that would help them to succeed in high school and ultimately matriculate to top colleges.
And when we talk about our young people, obviously, we know getting them engaged at an early age is really important and imperative. What are you finding by way of interest in this area? Because when we talk about the legal field, when we talk about really the criminal justice system, these are things that are highly impacting youth. And it's a good thing to see, on some sense, students who say, listen, people want to be a part of these programs that are really going to change the lives and hopefully the course of community.
Yeah, so we're finding that our students are really interested in the law, right? And we are not really concerned about whether they want to become lawyers or not. We use the law as a tool to attract them and to inspire them and motivate them. But ultimately, secretly, we're helping them to build the skills. So, what we realize is that there are gaps that exist within underserved communities, and these gaps often hinder students from these communities from succeeding. So, some of those gaps that we're seeing are the outlook gap. We seek to give young people who are not exposed just an opportunity to be exposed to what's out there, the different professions that they might not know about, so that when they are in college or even in high school, and when they graduate, they can start thinking about what those different options are career-wise. We recognize that there is an achievement gap. So we have our programs that are designed to help students build key skills so that they can gain admission to top colleges. And we realize that there's a college matching gap. So we help to guide students and their families toward applying to colleges that are the best fit for them, given their performance in high school. So we find that students are interested in how we hook them. And when they join the program, they find community, they find support, they're connected with like-minded students from all across the city. We recruit from all of the boroughs. We don't really have a whole lot of students from Staten Island in our program, but we do have a few. But we seek to gather students who need our support and who need our guidance and who need the skills. And hopefully, if they trust us, they trust the process, and we partner with their families, they're successful and they're able to not just gain admission to a top college, but they're able to compete with their peers who probably had a head start. These are other students who have been college focused, and they've been preparing for college since the second and third grade. And we're working with students in our own communities where the resources are limited within the schools, within their homes, and they're able to compete with their counterparts on that level. So we're really proud of that.
Yeah, we're living in a time right now where social justice is at an all-time high, and certainly with racial tensions and the challenge of voting rights and things of that nature, we know that people are taking to the streets and really becoming more and more engaged. Social justice is the name of our show, right? So, and so can you give us a little insight as to what that program is about and how that works?
Yeah, so we're really proud of our newest program, which is called the Civic Engagement and Social Justice Council. And, it's our newest program. It's a student-led program, and it was formed just as a response to the murder of George Floyd. Students were moved to organize, and we had a forum, and all of our students express how they were feeling and the frustrations that they had, and they wanted to do something about it. And so they were moved to organize and do something about the injustices that they were not only seeing in the media, but also seeing and experiencing in their schools and their communities. So they decided to get together and each year choose issues that they see as the most pressing in their communities and launch campaigns to address these concerns. So this year, our students or our council decided that they would take on 3 different projects. The first project concerns making a police use of force lesson that we created available to their schools, their middle and their high schools. And the purpose would be to teach students what constitutes reasonable force according to the Constitution. So we're offering training to teachers to teach their students, as well as we're sending our attorneys into the classrooms to teach these lessons to middle and high schoolers. And we want students to know about their rights and their responsibilities. And they also want students to know what best practices are for if they find themselves in a situation where unreasonable force is used. The second project that they're working on, it concerns policing of students of color in the subway. Particularly with regard to the hopping of turnstiles. So the council saw that Black and Latinx students were disproportionately fined for their hopping the turnstiles. And the reality is that in most instances, the 3 swipe limit that students have on their Metro card for school-related activities and to travel to and from schools was just not enough for students to participate, particularly in after-school programs. So we had students that were being penalized for simply trying to be a part of an after-school or a weekend activity. And this hit home for our students because the majority of them commute from their schools to the legal outreach office. And they're in the Bronx, they're in Brooklyn, they're in Manhattan. They're also in, the southern part of Queens, which is not where we're located. And in order to participate in our after school and our weekend programming, some of them exceed the 3-swipe limit. So that was the second project. And the third project that they're working on concerns voter registration. You mentioned that earlier, and particularly as it concerns voter registration or pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. So the council thought that by bringing awareness to the younger population and making voter registration, pre-registration forms just more accessible within the schools, more accessible to students, they're convinced that they can do their part to combat low registration and turnout rates among racial minorities.
Yeah, I know one of the things that, programs actually do is really try to prepare youth for not just the present, but the future. Just in our last segment, we talked with officer in charge, who actually is the president of SUNY Potsdam, about the transition in the college life. And I know in your organization, you do the same thing, really making sure the kids have access and preparing for being college bound. So a little bit more about what you guys do in the area of college readiness.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, Legal Outreach has 13 different programs that we run after school on Saturdays and every summer of their high school career. And they're designed to accomplish different objectives, 3 different objectives. One is to motivate students to want to go to college. And once they're motivated, the second objective is to equip them with the academic skills to do so. The third objective is to prepare students to succeed once they are actually admitted. Ultimately, we want our alumni to graduate from college prepared to pursue professional careers. And so we have a set of programs that's designed to motivate students by exposing them to the different career options. And so we have a summer internship program that students participate in once they've completed their first year with us successfully. And they're placed at law firms, private law firms, public interest firms. They work alongside judges. They work at real estate firms. And we just want students to see where they could potentially be. And they actually, go work at different placements every week. They rotate to different placements, but we spend time debriefing with them to, help them to vision cast. So they talk about what they observed at the firms and what they need to do now in order to make it there. And so that vision is really, really important and key to getting them on the road to college preparation. In our second set of programs, we have programs that are designed to close that achievement gap. And so we want to help students enhance their academic skills so that they're prepared to gain admission to college. And so we want students to, increase their GPAs and to make sure that they have the tools to know how to study effectively, not just now, but that they're developing good habits that can translate into strong grades once they get to college. And so we have an SAT prep program. We have an academic advisory program. So there's some accountability even as students are going through high school. We're talking to them about study skills. So they're developing those good habits now. We have a writing program so that students can learn not just good thinkers and good presenters, but they can put their thoughts to paper, and it can be, a cogent paper and a well thought out and well written paper. And then talking about transition to college, we have a whole college access department, and we focus on how to help students navigate their way through the high school to college transition. And so we have lots of workshops with the students and with their families to help them to transition successfully, or even anticipate what they might experience, particularly that first year in college. And all of these programs that we have, all 13 of our programs, in our view, are necessary to alter the educational trajectory of students from underserved communities. And we're really proud to say that, we've been really successful. Not that we have been successful, but the students have been successful. And that's evidenced by how well they've done once they matriculate to these schools. So we know that high school graduation is just not enough. College graduation is a must for our college-bound students. And that's where we think they've been able to excel. So the evidence of our success is really in the numbers. And we're proud to say that 100% of our students have graduated on time, graduated from high school, and 99% of our students have matriculated to college, and over 75% of our students have matriculated to what Barron's calls the nation's most highly and very competitive colleges. And students just from this past year's graduating class have matriculated to notable institutions like Cornell and Columbia and Harvard and Hamilton and SUNY Binghamton and Hunter. But what we're most proud of, as I said earlier, is that our students are able to compete when they get to these institutions. And so just looking at our graduating class, we see that an overwhelming majority of our students start their college career off with a GPA of 3.0 or higher. And that's really something to be, that's notable for us, because it's significantly higher than the national college graduation rate and the national average of how first year students fare, in college, especially from Black and Brown communities.
Awesome alumni that you have there, really going forward and doing some great things. I want to thank you for taking the time and being with us here today on the Social Justice Forums, and continue the work of imparting and impacting our young people. Thank you so much, Tamika, for being with us.
Thank you, Daren. It was great being with you.
All righty, and we're going to take a quick break here on the Social Justice Forums. Another guest coming up right after this. of Promise builds schools from the inside out, providing safe structures as well as educational programming for holistic learning around the world. They are committed not only to building school infrastructure, but to creating environments where students can truly learn as well as thrive. And joining us now to share more and give us details about Pencils of Promise, we've got the CEO, Kailee Scales, and we thank you so much, Kailee, for being with us.
Hi, good to have you. Good to be here. Thanks so much, Daren.
No problem. Glad to have you share it with us as well, talking about Pencils of Promise. And when we talk about this organization, your organization, as I said from the outset, building schools from like the inside out. So how did your organization come about?
Pencils of Promise was founded in 2008 by our founder, Adam Braun, who did quite extensive travel throughout the world and noted that, and made a point to meet children in his travels. And he always asked a question. He journaled a lot. And he always asked the question of children, if you could have anything in the world, what would you want? And more than once, a child has said that they wanted a pencil. And he realized that that pencil really represented hope and opportunity. And many of the students or children who he came across saw other students in their communities going to school and carrying pencils, and knew that that building, that place was a place of imagination and learning. And he realized that there was a real opportunity to transform the world and to provide opportunities to children who may not already have them just based on their circumstances. And so the first Pencils of 2008, and it's just been a snowball effect after that.
Yeah, you guys really have invested into education, and talk to us about the investment that you're making in terms of your young people and how you're trying to get them to a higher level.
Yeah, so Pencils of Promise has built 560 schools and has served over 110,000 students in Guatemala, Laos, and Ghana. In those countries, people may be surprised to know that having access to primary education is difficult for many people for many reasons. There are barriers to infrastructure. So POP ensures that infrastructure is built from the inside out by building the actual schools. There are teachers that need to be supported in their educational communication with students, and ensuring that the students have the right competencies and have the right social emotional learning that is necessary to become full-fledged, amazing human beings that are able to contribute to the world. And so there's teacher support that is very important that POP provides, as well as there are barriers that students have as well to attending school every day. Sometimes there are barriers to them being sick and them not attending school. So POP has a WASH program, which stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene, where we provide access to bathrooms. We teach about teeth brushing. We give menstrual hygiene education, so that students have barriers to education removed for them, so they're able to be present in classroom and contribute to learning.
Yeah, and when we talk about learning, it's a very, challenging environment, given the fact of COVID-19. Many people have resulted into virtual learning, but talk to us about how this has impacted that social, emotional learning environment, because trying to navigate virtually is totally different than in person.
Absolutely. We see that here in the United States, right? We see that in our backyards. We understand how it is. Many of our children, I have 2 children, they've been out of school for quite some time. This is the first time they're back in school after 18 months. So we see this challenge around the world in different ways. Our POP communities have been fortunate. Many have experienced different things, but many have been able to keep school open. Many have had school remain. So, and others have adapted to remote learning with our radio school program. Ghana in particular has a radio school program where over 2,100,000 children were able to participate in learning and learn new things through the radio, because, it's again been difficult to be in a classroom. In Laos, we've been able to keep school in session due to very low transmittal rates, which has been great. And in the meantime, we've been able to stay in deep contact with our teachers and supporting our teachers and making sure that we have text communication and are able to bring teachers together for additional training and support so that they're still able to be there for their students.
Yeah, what are you hearing from your teachers, given the fact that it is this challenged environment? How are they faring?
How is everyone faring?
That's
It's
true.
It's a pretty uncertain time. As I said, all of our schools are up and running. And the ones that have been established since the beginning, and many have continued to be in session. Teachers stay in close contact with each other, with the community, with our United States headquarters, in order to make sure that they feel supported and they're there for their students. When teachers are able to teach, they're teaching. When teachers have to be remote and support their students remotely, they're doing that. When teachers are able to provide radio education, they're doing that. So it's tough for teachers everywhere, as they've been missing this face-to-face connection with students, but we're adapting, and we are, again, serving children when we can in person.
Yeah. And so as we're looking now about building classrooms, I want to talk about that for a second, because it's really the work that you do, going in and helping to really establish a classroom. And not just the classroom, you got the teacher, you got the students, you got the equipment, and really the full scope. How do you go about doing that?
Our team is amazing. So our teams work in consultation with our country governments to ensure that there are all the regulations and requirements for each country is executed at the top level. We have high-class architects that work in each of our countries that think about the school bills, ensure that the school bills are in compliance with the country. Then we recruit teachers from within the community, so that the schools and the teachers reflect the students and the community, because it's a community effort. Everyone is building towards something together, and the school represents quite a bit. And it's always a celebration when a school is opened and we break ground. And our students, again, look up to our teachers and connect with them. So it's important that they reflect the community. And then POP continues to stay in touch with the community and the teachers, and ensure that the teachers have the support that they need to ensure that the students have the competencies that they need.
How does the public support the work that you guys do? I mean, you're doing great work internationally and really building up lives and building up people. How can the public play a part?
Yeah, so the public can always go to pencilsofpromise.org and hear more about our work and watch amazing, inspiring videos about our school builds and get to know our leadership, get to know our students, get to know our teachers, understand the curriculum, understand a lot of the activities that we engage in, learn more about WASH. They're able to join our passport program, so they're getting updates quarterly to hear more about us. Obviously, social media is a big impact in the way that we get information. So please go and follow us at Pencils of Promise on all social media channels, where we have additional content. We do interviews and spotlights on individuals that are doing amazing work in country. So many ways you can touch.
Yeah. And coming up in the future, what can people expect from Pencils of Promise?
Well, Pencils of Promise is working to scale smart. We're working to increase our school builds by 25 schools per year. We're looking to retrofit all of our schools with our WASH programming, all of which is very exciting. And this fall, we'll be premiering a program special that will be streamed across all platforms called A Story of Promise. So those who may only know Pencil of Promise through our amazing high-level celebrity endorsements and celebrity influencers that are a part of the organization, but may not know the full story and may not know everyone who makes an impact in their communities every day, can tune in December. And again, more information on our website so that you can really feel the impact of what Pencils of Promise does every day.
Yeah. And when we talk about impact, I know it's got to be a great feeling knowing that you're really not just transforming lives, but in many ways, you're transforming communities that lack in the basic necessity of being able to have an educational future.
Absolutely. I think it's really important to understand that education really unlocks our potential, and especially primary education. And the symbol of a pencil, which allows us to get what is inside of us outside, is so important to ensure that students and people everywhere have the opportunity to really showcase their talents so that we can work together and collaborate and transform the world. So it means everything.
Yeah. And so people have the way of being connected to you by checking out the website, knowing what's happening coming up in the fall. But looking back at where you've come from and really navigating through this pandemic, what's it been like for you? What's it been like for the organization getting to where we are today? Because even though we're not out of the woods yet, we are definitely far better than where we were when we first started.
Yeah, I mean, this time is so uncertain, and and we've all been impacted by that uncertainty, by fears and wanting to remain safe and wanting to remain healthy. So it's been a challenge. Like it's been a challenge for me. I'm sure it's been a challenge for you. I'm sure it's a challenge for our viewers, and it's especially challenging when we think about our children and keeping them safe and ensuring that they are able to have long lives where they can thrive. And so as I said, many of our POP communities and schools have been up and running, and we're in business. We're still opening schools. We're still providing resources. We're still ensuring that hygiene programming is provided, and hygiene resources are provided to our students. So we're, as everyone else, we know that we still have lots of work to do in order to make sure that our students feel supported and are capable of thriving in the future. So we don't stop, just like no one else stops, no parent stops, no community stops. So the work continues, and we're optimistic for a hopeful future. As you said, things are getting better. So we're very, very optimistic for a hopeful future.
And when you talk about the work doesn't stop, obviously you are continuing to build schools, but on the average, how long does it take you to get a school up and going from start to finish?
It really depends. It depends on the country. It depends on the relationships that we have with country governments, but anywhere between 6 months, 6 to 8 months is about the time. So our communities participate. They participate. They offer 20% of the resources to creating the schools. They actually come together to physically build the school. So it's a big community effort in order to ensure that that school breaks ground, but it takes about roughly 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, and how rough is it to recruit teachers for these particular schools, given the fact that you're starting from the ground up and starting in a new way?
You'd be surprised. There are so many. If you participate in a story of promise, you'll hear about our incredible leaders, and you'll understand the hope and the opportunity that individuals are born with. It's just our birthright, and so many people understand how important education is within their communities and aspire to that, aspire to teaching, aspire to ensuring that students are able to move forward in life. Or they aspire to building within their own communities and making sure that students have different outcomes that maybe other people that they've known in their community have. So there's tons of opportunity and aspiration in our local communities, and people are often wanting to go into the teaching profession and to support our students and our children.
Well, Kailee, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the show. And you guys are doing some amazing work across the world. And it's good to see that not only the work is going on, but the actual impact of what's going on. Before we leave, I do want to give you an opportunity for somebody, once again, who may just be joining and saying, listen, I want to be able to know more about the organization. Where can they catch up and where can they find out? Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we encourage everyone to visit us on pencilsofpromise.org. There are multiple ways to participate. Surprisingly, it only costs $50,000 to build a school. And so many people come together and they crowdfund those funds, and there's schools dedicated to people all around the United States, all around the world. And so there's always that way to participate. You can also support a classroom or support some of our electronic technology, as well as just getting more information and hearing more about it and becoming an advocate for global education equality. And all of those things you can follow us and find on our website and on our social media at Pencils of Promise.
Well, Kailee, we have to leave it there, but I want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing, not just impacting individuals and lives, but actually a community and transforming them. Great work by the Pencils of Promise, and we'll continue to bring your information to our viewers here on the Social Justice Forums. Want to let you know that we come to the end of our show today. Want to thank all of our guests who have joined us today, and want to let you know that if you've missed any part, you can catch the recablecast that is here on BronxNet's TV. You can watch it on BronxNet.org. Now, want to also let you know, if you want to find out more information, join us as we elevate the conversation next week. We promote civic engagement, civic dialogue. We're going to have some great guests coming up next week on the Social Justice Forums. I'm Daren Jaime saying take care, God bless, and we'll see you next week.